Hello, it's David here from the PPC Machine. Now, as you might already know, over on Facebook, I run a private members only group for mortgage brokers and financial advisors who want to improve their marketing and generate more of their own leads. And I know from talking to the guys in there that one of the challenges that people often have is they want to do this stuff, they want to improve their marketing and work on their business, but they struggle to find enough hours in the day to actually do that. So a few weeks ago, I ran a Facebook Live in that group where I interviewed a guy called Rob Da Costa. He's a business coach and someone I've known for many years now and who gives really great advice on how to improve your business. And during this interview I did with him, and I'll put a link to the full interview in the description below. But during this interview, one of the things I asked him was, how can people find an extra half an hour a day to work on their businesses and use that time to improve their marketing and improve their lead generation? And he came up with some really good answers, which you can see in this video. If you find it useful, then please do hit the like button. That would really help me out and allow more people to get to see this video. And also click subscribe and hit the bell icon so as you are the first to know whenever I release new videos. Thanks very much, and hope you enjoy the video. The main thing we want to talk about today is this idea of getting an extra 30 minutes a day back into your life. And funny, I know at the start of lockdown, lots of people were saying they'd gained this extra hour and a half a day from not commuting to the office and stuff. I think that's now disappeared for a lot of people. It's that it's not that they're back at the office, it's just that time's just got absorbed for other stuff. So I guess the first question really is, why would someone want to gain back an extra 30 minutes a day, and what sort of things should they be doing with that time, if they do manage to get it back?
Yeah, so this conversation kind of is born out of the fact that I have an online group coaching program, and I knew that one of the objections that people would have about joining the program is the fact that they're already stacked. So they don't have the time to actually invest in, half an hour's training every day. So I thought, you know what, the very first thing I'm going to do in this program is teach people how to win back 30 minutes. So quite frankly, we all need to work smarter and not harder. I think one of the problems about lockdown is it's made us work longer hours, but not necessarily work smarter, but just work longer hours. And, human beings are really good at filling up time. Give someone 2 hours to do a task that will take half an hour and they'll spend 2 hours doing it. And I'm as absolutely guilty as anyone of doing that. So I wanted to work out how can we win back half an hour and what we're going to do with that time. And the basic premise would be, guys, when you win back half an hour, it's time you should be working on your business and not in your business. So all those things that we wish we were doing, like working on our marketing, working on our positioning, writing some copy, doing some networking, looking at how we reach new customers, all of those things that we know we should do, but we never have time to do because we're at the behest of all our clients all the time. Well, if we can win back half an hour a day and just make sure that we really focus on using that time to work on your business, then, it's going to be really good.
Yeah. And I guess it's a particular challenge, I think, for a lot of the people who'll be watching this, because in the mortgage space, obviously there's always quite a high sense of urgency with the clients that you're dealing with, because they either need to get the loan in place to avoid missing out on their dream home, or offers are coming and going all over the place. So yeah, because it's very easy to obviously get sucked into just being reactive to client demands and never have that time to just focus on your business rather than running around in it.
Yeah, and I think what we have to make some choices about when we let other people's urgent become our urgent as well. And I think sometimes that's unavoidable. Like if someone's completing on a property, then, or they've got to get their mortgage in place by 5 o'clock, then obviously you've got to be jumping to make that happen. But I think too often we let other people's urgent become our urgent, and we let other people's disorganization become our urgent because they've left something to the last minute. So I think part of that is like training our clients to behave in a certain way and having some good boundaries about what we choose to let become urgent and what we don't. Otherwise, we'll always be. I have a client that isn't an agency actually, but they're architects, and they are, the food chain that they operate in is so complicated. There's builders and there's surveyors and there's conveyancing and there's this and that and the other. And if they're not careful, they can be at like the bottom of that food chain, and then everyone's shouting them because everyone's disorganized. So it's like, no, we have to create like timelines, say this is how long it's going to take. If you leave it to here, that's going to shift the deadline to there. So I think I guess the other thing for me is that, and I'm not saying this is what everybody should do, but my half an hour is very early in the morning. So typically 7:15 to 7:45 or even 8 for me is my what I call thinking time. I'll tell you about that in a moment because that's part of this winning back time. But so, and the good thing about that, of course, is that I'm not very likely to get client phone calls and all that kind of stuff at that time of the morning. And for me, it's when I work best. So if I just sort of jump into some thoughts around how do you win back this half an hour, then
yes, I was going to say let's talk about how we actually do it.
Yeah, so I use this acronym of TICK, TICK. So T stands for turn off notifications. So this is like a really easy challenge that I challenge all of your audience to do, and you, David, as well, is turn off your notifications. We are losing the battle of keeping our attention focused on what we're doing because all these technologies, all these phones and stuff are all vying for our attention, and they're winning, and we get addicted to it. So if you don't want to have those distractions, you have to be disciplined. And I can see some people listening to this will be going, oh yeah, but Rob, you don't understand. But trust me, I've heard it all before. People telling me why they can't do this. But you need to turn, like on your phone, turn off all of the notifications that are not important. On your computer, if you're really brave, use a tool like Freedom, which actually locks you out of all of these tools for a period of time to get you to focus. Because there's psychology that says if you're doing something that is kind of using a lot of your brain and you get distracted because an email pops up in the corner and you go, oh, I just have a quick look at that, then you're going to lose about 23 minutes of distraction while you put your attention to this email, and then you try to get your attention back into the complicated thing that you're doing. So one of the key things, the T, is turn off your notifications. And like for email, turn off your dialog box and Outlook. Everyone needs to go into Outlook now, into preferences, and turn off their dialog box. That's the little box that pings up in the corner, because quite frankly, if someone's got something urgent, they're not going to send you an email. They're going to call you, and that's what you need to train your audience to. So that's what the T stands for. Get rid of notifications so that you can get really focused on what you're doing. And then the second part of that is communicating with your audience. So the I is informing your people that you interact with when you're available and when you're not available. So this is all about getting very structured, and it's about you not answering the phone when you're in that time where you're trying to focus. So that's the I of TICK. And then the C is you need to look at your schedule. So the C is check your schedule, so that, for example, you're going to go, okay, I'm going to check my emails 4 times a day, which is what I do. So first thing in the morning, just before lunch, mid-afternoon, and end of the day. It's the 4 times in my day that I check my emails. And I will, when I check them, I will, if there's something really important, I will deal with it there and then. But most likely, I'm going to schedule things that need dealing with at a future time slot. So I'm just not letting all these things interrupt me all the time. And then the K is the really important one, which is keep practicing, because we need to keep practicing this. It takes 21 days to change behavior. So we need to keep practicing this. Now, when you've done those things and you win back some time, what I do first thing in the morning is that I have what I call my thinking time. And everybody should have thinking time every day. And thinking time should be when you are at your best. So if you're best at the end of the day or after lunch or whatever, then that's when you should do it. For me, it's first thing in the morning. So I get up, make my coffee, check my emails, and then I go to thinking time. And thinking time is where I'm going to do something really brain taxing. So that might be doing some business development. That might be writing a plan. That might be writing some content. I'm going to do that in that thinking time, which is pretty much the time I'm winning back because I'm getting more efficient with everything else. That's where I'm doing my working on the business stuff, because that is, that's what's going to move me forward. A lot of the time we can just kind of be busy fools doing stuff. But you know what? I've got a Post-it note that just basically says, is this moving you forward? And so I try to use that as a framework or a benchmark to say, is the thing that I'm
stuck on the wall kind of
thing. Yeah, it's behind me. I won't move my computer because it'll probably all fall apart, but it's behind me. I'm literally says, what, is this going to move you forward? Because if it's not, sometimes I can be like distractions and all the rest of it, and I can like let myself have some of those, but it isn't if it's not going to move me forward, I'm like, why am I doing it? Because there's so many things we can do. So I'm kind of benchmarking everything I do against this. Is it moving me forward? And then the other thing that I do every day that I think is a really, really good idea, and it's not my idea, but it works really well, is I have a morning and an evening ritual. And basically, the word ritual is a bit strange, but what it really means is I do exactly the same things every morning and exactly the same thing every day. And I think, given that a lot of us are working from home at the moment, this is really important because it creates a start of your day and it full stops the end of your day.
Yes, because I guess
so basically,
a lot of us had a ritual before that's been, a ritual of get up at 7 o'clock, have breakfast, leave in time to get the 7:45 train or whatever, and that whole ritual's been taken away from us, hasn't it?
Yeah, and so now what happens is, and I do this sometimes, you kind of peter out at the end of the day rather than say, right, I'm finished, I'm leaving the office, I'm going home, shutting the computer, closing the door, or whatever you can, if you're fortunate enough to have a separate office. So a morning ritual basically says, so my morning ritual looks like this. Number one, make a cup of coffee. That's the most important thing to start my day. It's like I can't get going without it. Number two, check my emails. Number three, schedule my day based on some of the emails that might have come in. I'm going to schedule my day. Now, when I schedule my day, I really overestimate how long things are going to do. So my absolute goal with my day is to never have anything on my to-do list at the end of the day. And that's not because I'm really efficient or really smart. It's because I don't overestimate what I can achieve, which is what many of us do. So many of us have to-do lists for the day, which get longer instead of shorter. And then at the end of the day, you've ticked off 10 things, you've added on 15. Now you've got to start the next day by copying those 15. And that doesn't make you feel good. Whereas if you could have a list that you've ticked everything off by the end of the day, you're going to feel good about your day. So that's my third point in my day. And I have goals for the week and goals for the month. So when I'm scheduling my day, I'll look at my goals for the week. I'll look at my emails. I'll look at my client meetings and all the rest of it. And that will help me figure out my day. And then at the end of the day, it's a similar thing, really. I check my emails again. I kind of map out roughly what I'm going to do tomorrow. And then I close my computer. Now, I try to have a clean computer, kind of clean desk policy in my computer and a clean desk policy on my desk as well, because kind of clean desk, clear mind. And I like to start my day with everything being completely clear. So that's
you shut down all apps and everything on the computer at the end of it. Okay. That's
the
complete opposite of me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you've got loads of threads hanging, then you don't have a clear mind in the evening, and then you pick up the threads the next day. Whereas if you can really full stop your day and start afresh with a blank sheet of paper almost. So I think collectively, all of these things help you win back that half an hour. And the last part, which we've already touched upon, is just separating the important from the urgent. Because people seem to think that they need to focus on the urgent, but the urgent doesn't move you forward. The urgent is just firefighting. The important moves you forward. The important tasks that you do are the tasks that will move your business forward and your clients forward. The urgent is stuff that someone has left at the last minute, so it's become urgent. So your goal, which we'll never achieve because stuff happens, is to never have urgent tasks on your list. If we can get really efficient and apply all some of the thinking that I've talked about, then you will get to a point ultimately where you don't have too much urgent stuff. So kind of collectively, if you can apply all of those things and get really strict with your boundaries, with the apps and software that you're using, and also boundaried with your clients or your team, then you can do this. And no one said it's easy. And like I say, I know sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I know people are sitting there thinking, yeah, but Rob, you don't understand what my business is like. Well, I can't do this. I can't possibly turn my emails off. Well, yeah, you can.
So, I think the email one's really interesting. There's two things in particular that strike me from what you've been talking about there. Is the one big thing about kind of educating your clients as to what is urgent and what sort of timescales you work. I mean, the classic example I think is, talk to an accountant from the middle of January onwards, and they're running around all over the place trying to finish loads of people's tax returns, and it's because in many cases, they didn't train their client to to send them information earlier, and so now the client's lack of organisation and urgency has now suddenly become their sense of urgency. And I guess translating that to the world of financial services, perhaps I suspect a lot of the calls and emails that a lot of mortgage brokers get are people who understood exactly how the mortgage process is going to work, and don't know at which bits it's normal for there to be a week when nothing happens, or at what point it's normal for the lender to ask for this information or that information. And I think maybe setting out the process and setting the client expectations at the start could make quite a difference to that.
Yeah, I think standing in your client's shoes, so you know what it feels like to be the customer, and educating them appropriately, and that's part of that training, really.
Yeah, and the email one as well. I always remember chatting to someone a few years ago, a friend who's a little bit older than I am, so he worked in offices before the advent of email, and he said back then, he was in the legal profession, he said back then it was great because the post would come in the morning. That defined what your day's work was, and if something hadn't come in the post and you'd finished everything by lunchtime, off down the pub, because you knew that there was going to be no more work coming in until 8 or 9 o'clock the next morning. And of course now we have this thing where requests and demands and pieces of work are coming in constantly throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a bit like Liz. I've said this a lot this week, so I'll say it to you as well. But I've got a dog. I know you have as well, David. And if I always let my dog jump on the bed, and then one day I've just changed the bed to lovely white linen, and he comes in with his muddy paws and jumps on the bed, I can't get angry with him because I've trained him to jump on the bed. So if I don't want him to jump on the bed, I've got to slowly over time retrain him so that he realizes he cannot jump on the bed. And I don't want to call our clients dogs, but it's exactly the same thing. We have to train our audience. And if you take the accounting example, if I were running an accounting firm and I said, look, if you don't get me your tax return information by this date, you're going to miss the date. And I know that this date is going to give me enough time to not be going crazy as we reach the deadline, then anyone who doesn't get me their information by that date, well, that will become their issue. But a lot of us are very reticent to do that. And we feel like we can't do that because we will kind of upset the client. Well, no, actually, we end up having a better.
My accountant one, you introduced a 2-tier pricing for tax returns, where if you provided the information by a certain date, it cost this much, and if you provided it after that date, the price went up by 50%. And I got my stuff in on time that year.
You know what? If I wanted to send a parcel and I wanted to get it to you by tomorrow morning, I would pay for expedited postage. And if I don't need to get it to you till Friday, I can send it normal postage. That's how it works. And so exactly the same should be in the business world. If people leave things to the last minute, it should cost them more money.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want to be at the beck and call of everybody else's, disorganization. And that accounts for 80% of the time. I totally get there's 20% of the time where things will go wrong, things will happen, and we have to help. So I'm not being sort of too super kind of rigid about this, but what we're talking about here is 80% of the time, not the 20% exception.